I mean, a lot of the big famous artists like J. Cole, Kendrick, Kanye, Lil Wayne.
Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special guest joining us from Seattle, Washington. We have Matt Mogg. How's everything going for you, man? And thanks for coming on.
It's going well, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're excited. So yeah, just to start us off with some of the basics, how old are you?
I'm 23, and I've been doing music since I was like 16-ish, so been a little while now.
How long have you been doing? You're doing it full time now, right?
I'm working a little bit.
Full-time music, producing all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working basically full time doing music. I do a little bit of audio engineering on the side for a publishing company actually too. So it's kind of a balance of both right now.
Right, you're staying busy.
Yeah.
With music, did you go to any type of college for anything you've been doing, or no?
So I took some classes for audio engineering, which for people that don't know, that's just like the process of recording and mixing music and audio. I took some classes at just a local school nearby, got some experience with that. And I didn't actually pursue a degree in music or anything, but I did take some classes, learned from that, and honestly just learned the most from working with people in the real world and online.
Right. No, yeah, that's smart. I mean, I'm guessing it's probably really helpful for the classes you did take. I'm sure it's been really helpful in what you're doing now. So.
For sure, yeah.
Like we were saying before the call, you live in Seattle. What's that like? How have you been liking it?
Seattle's really cool. I've always lived here, so I definitely love the area, love all the cities around Seattle. I'm not super plugged in with the Seattle music scene, if that makes any sense. There's a bunch of different types of music that come from here, but where I live, which is 25, 30 minutes outside of Seattle, there's not a lot going on. And so that part, I wish I was a little bit more plugged in with. Yeah, no, the city's amazing. I definitely love Seattle.
When I went to visit there, the terrain, especially the mountains and everything, it's just so pretty. It's such a cool area.
No, it's awesome. Definitely lucky to live here.
When you're not doing music and everything, what else are you possibly doing? Types of hobbies, other things that interest you, things like that?
Well, we were just talking about this before, but so I grew up super into golf. These days in the summer, definitely playing a lot of golf, just hanging out with friends, playing basketball, trying to stay active. Outside of music, it's probably golf, and it's really just golf and music these days.
Right. They both take up a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Seahawks fan by chance?
A little bit. Unfortunately, I didn't watch a lot of football growing up, so I definitely root for the Seahawks, but I'm more of a baseball guy, so a big Mariners guy.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Kind of diving into your music now. How and when did you kind of start making it? What's the story?
Growing up, for whatever reason, I played a bunch of sports where me and my brothers were all very active, but I was always really into video production and video editing, and that was kind of my at-home hobby thing. And I was just messing around on my computer one day, and I found a program called GarageBand, which is a beginner tool for recording music. And I just started watching YouTube videos on how to use it, slowly kind of train myself that way. But I have no musical background. I didn't grow up playing any instruments. I didn't grow up singing, didn't grow up writing any music. And so it was all self-taught. And then through that, ended up finding the program I use now, which is Logic Pro, just self-taught. And then in high school, like I said, in college, I took a few classes, but I don't know. It was around the time I was 15, 16, I started recording songs. And then when I graduated high school is when I made a decision that I'm going to try to pursue music as a career.
Wasn't anyone in your family that was into instruments or anything? It's really just kind of out of nowhere?
It was pretty out of nowhere. But so me and my brothers were always huge rap music fans. We were always talking about music. We just didn't know anything about how it was made. We were just huge fans, a lot of people are, but always waiting for certain albums to come out. And my older brother Brian was a big influence on that, because I'm when I was 12, 13, I didn't know what's going on, but he would always be the one telling me what new albums came out and what to listen to.
What types of music, what artists were you listening to back then?
I feel back in the day we were really into, a lot of the big famous artists like J. Cole, Kendrick, Kanye, Lil Wayne, but we were also into I don't know if you've heard of Lecrae or Andy Mineo, but a bunch of the smaller artists like that. Those were kind of the more niche ones that inspired us back in the day.
Mostly rap, or was there some alternative rock, country?
It was
Anything else?
really just rap until like after high school. Honestly, my music taste was pretty bad. Not that there's anything wrong with rap, but like
Right.
it just being rap was kind of a bummer. After high school though, then I started to expand like my taste a little bit more.
Right. I'm sure you can
Hmm.
see that in your music that you make too. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
influenced a bunch of different sounds.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so I know that you work with a lot of other artists, whether it's making songs with them or producing for them, right?
mhm.
When did you kind of start doing that? Like, when did you start working with other artists?
When I was in like high school, I had like another friend who also was interested in music but didn't know how to like produce or anything, and we kind of started learning how to do a bunch of our stuff together. His name was Neri. So we kind of learned how to do music at the same time. I feel like I always just like met people, like friends of friends that were also trying to do music. Some of them were really bad, some of them were really good. In high school is when I started working with people, and I had a really good friend like my senior year of high school who was also recording a lot, and so him and I learned a lot together. It wasn't until I was probably 19 or I think it was 19 when I started to meet a bunch of people online, and that's who I met like the majority of the producers and artists that I work with now.
Building like that online network, that's really important these days. I don't know if you got to check out our social media account at all, but I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
literally how we've been meeting all these people that we've been working with. I mean, literally, it'll just be something as small as one of their songs will pop up on our algorithm. Then we'll look them up and we'll be like, oh, we should send them a DM, and we do, and they answer, and it's been really cool. We've met a lot of cool people that way.
No, yeah, that's for
All right,
sure the way to
so
do it.
back to your music. When it comes to like your songwriting process, do you usually start with a beat? Do you write the lyrics first? How does that work for you?
So 99% of the time for me, it starts with a beat. If I'm making it or another producer sends it to me, I usually just listen to it and go from there. Sometimes like throughout the day, I'll have like an idea, a lyric, or I don't know, just like I want to make a song about this kind of thing. But probably 80 to 90% of the time, it's just I hear a beat and first thing that comes to mind is what I'm going to talk about on the song and start writing it from there.
Do you find you often write about specific themes, like any common ones that pop up a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I try to just make my music about my own life. And so it tends to be about relationships with other people. It tends to be about, I don't know, just like ups and downs in my life. I'm trying to get better at writing more conceptually versus a lot of the music I write is just I sit down, play a beat, first thing comes to mind I go with. But I want to be better at like, okay, this is going to be a song about this topic, and I'm just trying to find different ways to challenge myself,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Do you end up making most of your beats yourself, would you say?
It's a mix. It's probably actually like half or maybe even a little less than half of my beats these days are produced by myself. I go back and forth a lot because when I produce a beat myself, I find it a little bit harder to write to because I like the feeling of like hearing a beat that I've never heard before. It's already like produced and finished, and then just being able to focus on the writing versus if I'm writing to my own beat, I'll get kind of in my head about like, maybe I should have changed this in the drums, or maybe I should tweak this. I'd rather be able to just focus on the writing,
Right.
if that makes sense.
I can imagine it gets really tedious trying to make everything perfect when you're doing literally everything yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where do you record your music? Like, what is your studio situation? What does that look like?
So it changes all the time. I've moved around quite a bit, like living situation wise, the last few months. I have a pretty basic setup. I don't know if it's like, if you can see it. Oh, there it is. That's my mic right there. But I literally just have a mic and an interface and a couple speakers that I set up. I record in this room I'm in right now. I record in my bedroom. I've recorded in my garage. Wherever I can find a spot to set up in, I'll do it. I've recorded in my kitchen. One of my like most recent songs I put out, we literally recorded it, produced it, wrote it all in my kitchen. It's just wherever we feel like, which is it's kind of fun sometimes, but I wish I had more of a stable setup.
Right. I get that. I wasn't sure if you had all this big machinery, all this equipment that is going to complicate things, but I guess it's just wherever you guys feel like, huh? Wherever you feel inspired.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. I know a lot of people, like whenever I tell people I do music, they're really excited to be like, oh, show me your like setup. Like, what's your studio like? I really just record vocals. So all I need is a mic and an interface and my computer, and that will get me through the entire song. But I have producer friends too that have studios. So if I want to do a more bigger production song, like I'll go work with them. But for my own just recording and my own demos, my setup is pretty much all I need.
Right. No, it gets you through. No, that's That's cool. And I've heard, and all the people we've interviewed, I've heard so many different stories about where they go, what they have to do, how much money they have to spend to rent out studios and everything.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pain in the butt. So
Exactly.
being able to do it easily from home, that must be nice. Yeah. We kind of talked about this briefly a couple minutes ago. When it comes to music influences, would you be able to pinpoint, a couple peers and as well as a couple like existing big artists that you would say have influenced you to do what you do?
Oh yeah, for sure. I have a lot of different inspirations and it changes all the time. More recently, a bigger artist like Dominic Fike or maybe even like a Mac Miller, I really like their vibe. And so they're a big inspiration, especially for me going from doing exclusively like hip hop to more alternative kind of hip hop. They're a big inspiration. There's some smaller artists like Nick D or Forrest. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they're a big inspiration for just the way that they put out their music, the way they roll out their content. So there's a lot of different inspirations like that. One of my like good buddies, I'm actually putting out a song with him. I don't know when this episode is coming out, but a week from today. He's been a big inspiration for me recently just because he lives over here, near me in Seattle, and we've been recording a lot of stuff. His name is Peabod. He's a really cool guy, and so he's been teaching me a lot too about the way he records his music and the way he promotes everything. But yeah.
Right. Gotcha. I think I might have saw. Did you hint that on your Insta yesterday? Probably.
Yeah, we're gonna actually announce the song soon. I don't know when this episode comes out, but I think probably on Monday or something we're gonna post a little like snippet, and then Friday will be the song release.
This isn't gonna come out for like another month or so.
Okay, cool. Then it'll be out by then.
So it's cool to leave that part in there then in the video.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The first song that I ever heard of yours was "If We Fall, Then We Fall," which, funny enough, Cole, our buddy we were talking about, he's the one that showed me that song. We were just sitting in the car one day and we were like, so we bonded over music a lot too. And we were just like, oh, I have this buddy from back home who makes music. This is his song. And then he did the same and he showed me that one.
Gotcha.
Huge fan. That song's still on a couple of my playlists. With that song and songs that came out like earlier in your career like that, how would you say you've changed, since those songs?
Well, let's see. Also, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Yeah, If We Fall, Then We Fall. That's funny. That's like one of my favorite songs I made. So back then, I was making a lot of music. Like I was trying to do like one song a day. I was trying to just get better as a songwriter. And so that just happened to be one of those ones it was like a 2-month stretch where I was just trying to record and finish one song every day. And I felt like I was writing a lot of my best stuff at the time because I kind of view recording music the same way as like all the sports that I played growing up. You got to do it every day if you want to improve. You got to work at it constantly. And it was helping a lot. At the time, I was trying to go from making just rap music to pop music. And so that was just one of my first attempts at like a pop song, even if it does sound a little rappy. But yeah, and these days, I feel like I've gone a little bit more alternative than pop. I don't know. I still love that song and still want to continue to make songs like If We Fall, Then We Fall.
I can definitely hear what you're saying about that one being more pop. I can definitely hear that compared to some of your early ones.
Yeah.
So now transitioning to some of your newer stuff, your 2 singles you've released this year, Sour Patch and All My Life. Is that the only 2, right? Or has there been a third one?
And then I have that other one coming out like next week kind of thing. But that's just it right now.
Right. Which also, Sour Patch has been stuck in my head too. And I've seen all of your content you've made around that. It's all been really cool.
Thank you.
What would you say with your 2024 singles? What are you most proud of when it comes to these new songs?
I'm definitely super proud of both of those songs. So Sour Patch was actually the one that me and my friend just made in our kitchen. So that one was just really fun to make. It was me, my friend Tyler, and James, who is Chris's James. He's the other artist singing on that song. There's the 3 of us. We just sat in the kitchen. I put some drums down on Logic and asked my friend Tyler if he could play some guitar. He played the guitar. James started singing and he came up with the Sour Patch concept. I was like, wait, we could make this like a metaphor for a relationship. We like wrote the song in like 30 minutes. Like it was, I feel like music never comes together that quick for me, but that was one of those studio sessions, whatever you want to call it, that, I don't know, I felt like everything just fell into place super quick.
There wasn't any Sour Patch candies or anything around that influenced it? It just...
No, it's crazy. My friend, all credit goes to James on that concept because he just, I don't know, he's a funny guy. He just like randomly just sang that line and we're like, whoa, that's already sounds like a song concept. Actually turn this into a full song kind of thing.
Right. No, I mean, it worked out great.
Mm-hmm.
With these singles and your singles that will be coming out in the near future, would you say there's any kind of change in direction in sound? I mean, I know we keep saying that you're moving toward an alternative sound, but do you see any more changes coming in the future?
Yeah. So this next song that's dropping, it's called 10 Feet. It's with this guy, Peabod, I was talking about. This one's a little bit more pop slash hyper pop influenced a little bit. I'm still like rapping on it, but so it's kind of a mix of genres. And then next month in July, I got a song with my buddy Cade that's a lot more hip hop. I'm definitely putting out a diverse like mix of genres this year, which I'm excited about. But I really want to get more into pop music and more alternative and punk inspired a little bit. I just love music so much. So like I want to be able to touch every single genre a little bit. Like I've been recording a little bit of country music recently, just trying to see how I can expand my discography of music.
That's awesome. This kind of ties into a question I had for later, but I'll just jump into it now. You mentioned maybe going in a punk direction in some sorts. What are your thoughts on the new like pop punk wave? You know, like the Machine Gun Kellys. You know, Black Bear did a pop punk album. People like that. What are your thoughts?
That's funny you said that because I didn't even mention this earlier when talking about inspirations. Probably my biggest inspiration music wise the last 5 years is Black Bear. And a lot of people don't know that because my music's pretty different than his music. He's probably the first like pop artist I got into. And I didn't really grow up listening to punk music, so I don't have the same perspective of a lot of people that are kind of anti the new punk wave. So honestly, everything I've heard, I really like. The punk artists I listen to are like the new stuff from Black Bear. There's a smaller artist named Knox. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. Yeah, he's dope. So he's probably one of my bigger inspirations.
Yeah, what I was just going to say is I noticed on your Instagram that you follow both Knox, which I'm a big fan of his music, and then a guy named Smitty Z Top, Zach.
Okay, yeah.
You know him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did an episode with Zach. He's such a cool guy.
No way.
And what first drew me to his music was an EP that he released last year that was like real pop punk. Like I loved it. That's probably my favorite genre. But then as I've learned more about him, he has all this other stuff. Like he does rap, hip hop. He does literally everything. But him and Knox have done a lot of writing together in the past because they're both from Nashville.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just curious. I know a lot of people hate the new pop punk that comes out and they say it's not Blink. You know, it's not all those older bands, but I love it. It's some of my favorite stuff.
Hey, I like it too. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Hopefully you got some of that planned. I think that sounds really good.
Yeah, I definitely want to. So I have two of my producer friends are really good at producing that genre. And so trying to work with them more. One of them I'm actually moving in with as a roommate in a few months. So I think once that happens, I'll be doing a lot more pop music.
There you go. Can't wait to hear it. I know you said when you graduated high school is when you kind of took music more seriously, started doing it more full time. What would you say was the moment that you were like, I can do this, or this is what I want to do?
I think there was a few moments like that. I remember when I was like 16, I had a friend, maybe I was 17. I had a good buddy of mine who he was producing before I was. He's older, and he was the one kind of giving me advice. He had some small like industry connections, and I remember him telling me, he's like, you used to be really bad when you started and you're pretty good now. Like if you keep going, this could actually turn into something. And so that was my first moment of like, wait, maybe he's right. Maybe this isn't just for fun. But once I got out of high school, I got to play music for one of my all-time favorite producers. His name is Illmind. He's produced for every big rapper you can think of, like Kanye, Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, Jay-Z. And I got to play him a couple of songs I was working on. And I remember afterwards, he like asked me to email him and reach out. And even though it never turned into anything, it was like this guy actually heard my music and doesn't think it sucks and is somewhat interested in talking more about it. Like if this is how good I got in like 3 years of working on music, I feel like if I spend the next 5-10 years committing myself to music, like I could actually get really good.
Was there a moment where you were like, oh man, people love my stuff? Was it when you were working with that producer you were just talking about?
Yeah, that was a cool moment. But at the time, that was more for my production. And I've always really wanted to be a vocalist and like be an artist myself. And I think the first time that really started to work was like summer 2020. One of my favorite artists, who's a smaller rapper, his name's Futuristic. He would post these like remix challenges when that was kind of the popular trend. And I remember I would always enter them, and it was like 3 challenges in a row. I got into the top 10. And I remember he posted me on his social media, and a bunch of artists were reaching out to work. That led like one thing to another. And then I did another remix challenge, and one of my childhood favorite rappers, Andy Mineo, was posting me on his Instagram, and I got to talk to him. So that was kind of the first like, wait, even some of my favorite artists think that I can do this kind of thing.
No, that's awesome. Kind of going more toward performing, like live performances. You have done a few of them in the past, right?
Yeah, just a few.
So kind of going into that, I'm sure you enjoy them for sure, right? And like, do nerves come with that?
Yeah, there's definitely some nerves. A lot of the shows I've done have been very different from one another, and so you never really know what to expect, but it's always so fun. And I'm a pretty introverted person, and so the idea of being on stage and trying to get everybody into your music, but two, to just kind of buy into like the energy of, I don't know, whatever you call like being a concert. It seems really overwhelming, but once I'm up there, it's always really fun.
That's what I've heard. I've heard a lot of artists say the same thing. They're like, oh, I can't even imagine myself doing it. But then as soon as I'm up there, it's so easy. Like, just doing what you love. Yeah,
for sure.
That's cool. And then do you have any favorite / crazy performance stories, like any concerts that you've done that stand out, or any memories you think back on?
So the first like real thing I ever got to do was, this one's kind of random, but I think I was 19 or 20. I was trying to go to this concert with my brother for this artist, Futuristic. I bought tickets, and I had spoken with him a little bit at the time beforehand. I bought the tickets and didn't realize it was a 21 and older show. So I just reached out and I was like, hey, is there any chance I can actually still go to the show, or should I sell my tickets? And he was like, yeah, I'll get you in, but you have to be ready to rap. And I was like, what? Like, what does that mean? And he goes, just be ready to rap. And so I've never actually met the guy in person. We just talked over Instagram, and I show up to the show. There was a little meet and greet beforehand, and he like still wasn't saying anything. He's like, just be ready to rap. And like halfway through the show, he did this thing where he like called me and a few other people up to the stage, and they just like played a beat and made us freestyle. And I never freestyle. So luckily I kind of figured something like that was going to happen. And so I had like 3 different verses memorized just in case something like this happened. So I got invited up, did my verse, and it went really well. So that was probably my favorite like performing memory, just because it was so on the spot and random, and it didn't flop. But yeah,
I can't even imagine. It had to be so cool. If it was me though, I'd literally cry. So that was probably very nerve.
It was, but it was, I don't know, it was a cool moment for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now kind of transitioning to more of the music industry itself. Are you Apple Music or a Spotify guy, or neither?
I'm a Spotify guy. I used to be on Apple all through high school and everything. And then a few years ago when I got a new phone, it like didn't save my Apple Music library and I couldn't get back in. So I just switched over to Spotify.
Gotcha. What music are you like currently listening to? What's new and exciting on your playlist?
That's a good question. I really love the new
Feel free to look.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to pull it up just so I'm not missing something. But I know off the top of my head, it's been a lot of like the Dominic Fike album that he put out like a month or 2 ago. That one's like super fire. Just today, Surfaces dropped a new album called Good Morning. It's really like good summer vibes if you like that kind of stuff. Just a lot of like pop music right now. Let's see. I'm going to look at on repeat. Yeah, my guy Gio has been putting out really fire music recently, and so I've been listening to all his new singles. That, Knox, and yeah, that's kind of it for the most part.
Just because you mentioned it, just a funny story with Knox. You know Hardy, I'm sure, the country guy turned like rock. He has a rock album coming out, and he has a song that's going to feature Knox on it, and I have no idea what that's going to sound like. I'm so interested to hear what that sounds like in a couple weeks when it comes out.
That'll be interesting. Yeah. Oh, also another artist. I don't know have you heard of V Reels? I don't know if that's how you say his name. I think it's V Wills or something, but he's like a country hip hop kind of guy, but not in like it's not like country rap. It's like more pop sounding, but he's a really fire artist if you want to check him out.
Oh yeah, no, I for sure will. Anyone that you'd consider underground that like just starting out that would be on your playlist that you'd recommend?
I would definitely say to check out my guy Gio. I don't know if he's necessarily underground anymore. He's one of my music friends, and in the last like year, he went from like, I don't know, like a few thousand monthly listeners to like 700,000 monthly listeners. So he's definitely like on the rise right now. So I'd check him out before he's a mainstream artist. But my guy's Titus Haskins. I make a ton of songs with him, but he's super fire too, super underground. And yeah, those would probably be my 2 picks right now.
And then the last question when it comes to kind of your playlist and what you're listening to. Is there anything on your playlist that you consider off genre for what you normally listen to, whether that's an artist or just a random single that you like?
I don't know, because it's so weird. Like, I honestly don't even listen to rap music that much anymore unless I'm like working out or like with friends that I know also like rap music, so I'll play kind of music that fits their vibe too. But honestly, when I'm by myself, it's so funny. I listen to like super girly pop music, or I don't know, punk music. Like, it's all over the place. It just depends on the vibe. Yeah, it could be anything from, I don't know, like I don't know if you know who Nick D is, but it could be something like his music. It could be Olivia Rodrigo. It could be whoever. Like, I try to not hesitate from checking out an artist if I haven't heard their stuff, even if like they're the new popular artist on TikTok that everyone kind of makes fun of. I'll check it out and try to figure out why people are connecting with their music. Through that, I found a bunch of artists that I probably wouldn't have listened to before.
Especially in recent years, I've really, kind of invested myself in the music industry. I don't make music. I don't play any instruments. I'm trying to teach myself the drums.
Oh, nice.
But I found in recent years, especially, I used to be more of like just a strictly rock guy. Literally, like I'll have a rock song playing, and then next I'll have like some Morgan Wallen, and then I'll have some Quinn 92 pop up. Like I listen to literally everything. And then a classic throwback. Yeah, I don't even know. Like a classic dance throwback will pop on. Like literally everything. It's been really cool.
No, I feel that. I'm the same way. Also, Quinn 92 is fire.
I forget, you mentioned someone earlier today that you said like Summer Vibes or something like that. That's what I think of when I think of him. I've seen him in concert twice. He's really good. And he just had a single release last night as well.
Really he did? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely got to check that out. It goes along with your music, but with your social media content that you make and like record, what is kind of your like philosophy behind that? Like, do you have an inspiration? You're like, oh, I like what that guy did, so I'm going to make a video like that. Or does it just all depend on the song, just ideas that pop into your head?
It definitely depends on the song. But there are a ton of people I follow that I think are doing it right. They figured out what kind of content works for them. So that could be Nick D is like the original like independent small artist that went super viral through TikTok and built like a consistent following. And so a lot of people look to him for inspiration. Through him, like guys like Connor Price or Forrest, who's actually like the lead singer from Surfaces. So those guys are definitely like big inspirations, but I want to do more stuff. Like, I like going out and filming stuff more. So I'm trying to push myself to, instead of just filming in my house, like going to find somewhere with a cool sunset or a cool view and filming there so that the videos are more like aesthetically pleasing. But it depends on the song, because for like pop music, it's got to like look pretty or something like that. It's got to have some sort of aesthetic to go with it.
Right, for sure. Do you do most of that on your phone, or do you have some gear that you use, cameras, things like that?
Yeah, I film all my stuff just on my phone, and I used to edit on my computer, but recently I've just been editing on my phone as well. And so trying to take advantage of that, but I wouldn't mind having a camera. I feel like it's weird because on Instagram, a lot of people, there's like different types of people that make content. There's people that make like super produced, like picture perfect content, and a lot of people like that. But then there's also like a lot of people just like very basic content of someone filming on their phone. It's not very edited, maybe some text on the screen, and for some reason that works for them too. So
no, for sure. Since me and my buddy have been doing this project, he is a film and post-production major in college, so he has all the gear. I mean, he has so much money worth of cameras and all this different stuff, and we've gotten into concert photography, or we've just been running around making content, whatever that may be. And people will come up and ask me, be like, oh, what camera do you use? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm trying to learn all that stuff. What editing software do you use?
So like I said earlier, like before I got into music, I thought what I wanted to do was like video production. So I learned Adobe Premiere from like a young age. I'm not crazy or anything like that, but recently for my content, I've actually just been editing on CapCut on my phone, which is like the most basic editing app that anyone can use for social media. But honestly, you can do some really cool stuff with it. I want to get to the point where I'm posting content like a couple times a week, because I've struggled with staying consistent in the past. And so I'm looking for ways to simplify things while still being creative and still creating something new.
My buddy Caleb, he uses Premiere for all of our stuff as well. And he's tried to show me different things, but I asked him one time, I'm like, do you want like help? Like, can I like do part of it? He's like, no, I'm too I'm too picky. I'm too particular about what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, yeah.
the only thing he'll let me do is like a thumbnail or something,
Gotcha.
which is fine
That's
by
funny.
me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then I threw this question onto the list just because the last person we interviewed, he loved it. He thought this was awesome. But Drake or Kendrick?
All right. So that's a tough question because I grew up a huge Kendrick fan from the time I was like 13 on, like massive Kendrick fan. But in those years from 2017 to 2022, when he didn't drop any music, I became a huge Drake fan, and Drake's a huge inspiration for me. And I don't know anything when it comes to the battle with both of them. I don't know what's happening outside of music and what's actually true and not. And if we're just purely going off of which diss tracks I like better, I'm gonna give Drake like I think I'm gonna go with Drake, but it's real close. I think Not Like Us was the best Kendrick diss, but honestly, I really like Drake, and I think I might just be a fanboy. But that being said, if any of the stuff that they're saying about each other is true outside of the music, I'll probably have to go with whoever's right.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I know obviously there's like the diss tracks and everything, but I don't get super in depth about all the other crap that they talk about.
Exactly.
The last guy we talked to was Kendrick, easily all the way. So that's funny. Yeah,
That's
he loved
interesting.
that question. Just the last couple questions to wrap this up. Now, you mentioned the new music coming out this week, but do you have a release schedule that you normally go off of, like a once a month, once every 2 months, or is it just kind of however it naturally happens?
In the past, it's just been however it naturally happens. And I've done little streaks of like, all right, from this month to this month. I've done like weekly drops before, which was cool. And I think worked better for my content I was posting at the time. But for the next few months, I'm trying to drop never more than like once every 2 weeks and never any less than like once a month. So just trying to stay somewhat consistent without like dropping every single week. So that's kind of the release plan for the next, probably the rest of the year. We'll see what happens. I have like albums I've been working on too, but I don't know when those will be finished. Some of them I've been working on for years, but that's a whole different process.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. Understandable. Other than the song and artist that you have been hinting at dropping with this week, who else do you have planned for collabs?
It's a lot of the same people I've collabed with in the past. One of my good buddies, his name's Cade Leggett. He's a producer from Seattle, but I got a song with him dropping in July. I got him to rap on it with me, and I'm not gonna lie, he low-key did really good. So I'm excited for that one. It's a really fun track. I have some other songs. It's mostly with other producers, so not any like names that would like ring a bell. It's kind of a lot of the same people I've been working with, but I wanna reach out to some more people and collaborate with new people for sure.
Oh, and the question that left my mind. You mentioned about how much music you've made in the past, like making a song a day. If you had to guess, how many songs, like completed songs, do you have in the tank, like ready to be released if you wanted to?
If right now, completed songs in the tank, I'd say probably like 20 and like 14, 15 of those being ones for a specific album I've been working on. So they're like complete, but there's like things I want to change about them, but I could put them out right now and you would just assume it's a new finished song sort of thing.
Right.
Really like 3 that are going to be released and I have like a set schedule for. And then if you count like ideas that have been started and recorded a chorus and a verse too, probably like a few hundred, but so many of those will never be finished, unfortunately.
There's so much to do. Yeah, I get that. And this transitions perfectly to my next question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you haven't released any EPs or albums in the past, right?
No, other than one small EP that was like a collab. It was like 3 songs with my artist buddies Titus and Roscoe, but that was like 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, and you hinted that you're working on an album. When can we kind of expect that? Like, is that going to be like a this year hopefully thing, like a 2-3 years down the road?
Yeah, I'm hoping this year. I started the project in 2021. So it's funny to think because it was around the same time I was making some of the songs we talked about earlier, like If We Fall, Then We Fall. And this project is more hip hop based, it's a little like R&B inspired. There's actually a few collabs on it that I'm really excited about. So probably by the end of the year, I'd say. It just doesn't really fit the same vibe of the songs I'm dropping in the next few months. So I've kind of always put it off a little bit just because I don't want to drop like 3 pop songs and then a completely different sounding album and then go back to like the pop songs. I'm trying to find a more natural way to release it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've heard a lot of different artist views on this. For a lot of people say that, or have been saying that, releasing singles is like the best way to make sure every song gets their own attention, like get the attention it deserves, and that's like a good way to grow. But then other artists are really for albums because it like allows like the songs to blend together really well, tells a story, and a lot of artists like to do that. Are you able to kind of tease what the story of your album you're working on is there a main theme to it?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned all that, because I 1000% agree with singles being the right way to release music and find an audience. But a couple years ago, I basically just was like, I'm working on so much music, I can release singles and an album and work on an album at the same time. That was kind of how I started the project. Was I just got really into artists like The Weeknd, Drake, other R&B, like smaller artists as well, and was like, I really love this sound. I wonder what I would sound like on songs produced like this. And it just slowly turned into a project. It's a little bit of a sadder, like darker project. And that was kind of the reason I was like, a lot of my music is fun and more surface level. And I was like, I really want to do a full project of going a little bit deeper and releasing it that way, versus like I've released like sad songs in the past. When they only hear one song, they're like, what's going on, man? Like, are you doing okay? Like it's kind of funny when you release a song that could have been how you were feeling one night 3 months ago, and people assume that's like how you're feeling constantly. And so I kind of wanted to make a bunch of songs, put them in a project in context, so that people can listen for themselves at like the progression of, I don't know if any of that actually makes sense, but that's kind of what I was thinking in my head when I was making it.
No, yeah, for sure. Like you said, if you say it's more dark, you could probably also say that's probably going to be more emotional than what a lot of your stuff is, which is perfect for an album to tell an emotional story like that. So that should be really good.
For sure. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Big question to wrap this up. Musically, where do you hope to be in 5 years? What's the ultimate goal for 5 years down the road?
5 years down the road, to be able to be doing music full time and be able to support a family, being able to make a living off of it, putting out music. No matter how big I am, if I'm able to do that and able to create music, then I've achieved all I wanted to achieve.
That's awesome. Again, with everyone we've been talking to, I've had a lot of different answers to that, but that's a good one. Any hopes of, selling out huge venues or anything like that? Is that in the
For sure. I would love to be a massive artist and be able to do all that crazy stuff. But honestly, like my favorite thing in life is just making music. And so if I can live a life where I'm able to support myself and a family and still have time every single day to dedicate towards creating music, that's what I'm in it for ultimately. I love performing, I love working with other artists, and I love when people respond to a song, but creating is the whole reason I got into it.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, that's awesome, man. That sounds really good, and fingers crossed for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.